Sorry about that. Sam, can you hear me okay?
Yes, sounds
Okay.
good.
Everybody, oops. Give me 1 second while the dogs stop barking and I will get started. Okay. Okay. Thanks for everyone's patience. The January 27th, 2022 meeting of the Zoning Committee of the St. Paul Planning Commission will now come to order. I'm Chair Jake Riley. And for the record, the chair of the Planning Commission has previously determined that it is not practical or prudent for the Planning Commission and its committees to meet in person pursuant to Minnesota Statutes Section 13D.02. Considering the COVID-19 health pandemic, it is not feasible for any member of the zoning committee to be present at a regular location. Committee members attending this meeting are doing so by telephone or other electronic means. It is also not feasible for members of the public to attend the meeting at its regular location due to the health pandemic and emergency. Arrangements have been made so that applicants and members of the public may also attend this meeting by telephone or other electronic means. Accordingly, no meeting is being held in City Hall Council Chambers at 15 West Kellogg Boulevard at this time. Again, this public hearing is being conducted remotely due to the COVID-19 pandemic. This meeting is also being recorded. Even though this hearing is being conducted remotely, the committee's public hearing rules and procedures still apply as if the committee were meeting in its usual place. These rules and procedures are as follows. The zoning committee's recommendations and findings must have a rational basis based upon the St. Paul zoning code and applicable state and federal laws. The zoning committee's actions today are recommendations. They are not final decisions. The committee's recommendations are forwarded to the Planning Commission for final action. The committee's recommendations will be considered by the full Planning Commission at its regular meeting held 1 week from Friday. The Planning Commission's meeting is open to the public, but it is not a public hearing. The decisions of the Planning Commission on conditional use permits, non-conforming use permits, site plans, variances, and other zoning permits are final decisions unless appealed to the City Council. The decisions of the Planning Commission on rezoning applications are only recommendations. By state law, the City Council, following a public hearing before it, makes the final decision on rezoning applications. The following rules and procedures govern today's public hearing of the Zoning Committee. The chair will call the secretary to take attendance by the committee. Committee members will need to respond verbally for the record. Committee members, during the meeting, please mute your microphone except when recognized by the chair to speak. Discussion is intended for committee members and staff only, except during public hearing items when the chair invites individuals to speak. Staff will be monitoring microphones and muting committee members and members of the public as needed. Use the chat function only to indicate that you have a question or comment. The chat function is part of the official meeting recording. Type Q or question into the chat feature when you have a question and/or C or comment. If you have a comment, the chair and staff will monitor the chat function so that the chair may recognize committee members and staff in an orderly way. After being recognized by the chair, committee members should state their name before speaking. This helps others in the meeting and assists with the official recording. When chair calls the committee to vote on agenda items, the secretary will be called to do a roll call. Committee members must respond verbally for the record and vote either yes or no. Cases will be called in the order they appear on the agenda, and the chair reserves the right to limit the length of testimony if deemed necessary. I'll ask the recording secretary to now conduct a roll call of the committee members that are present for this meeting. Each committee member should acknowledge their presence by saying here. Go ahead and take the roll call, Sam. Thank you.
Commissioner DeJoy? Commissioner Grill?
Here.
Commissioner Hood?
Here.
Commissioner Rangel Morales? Commissioner Riley?
Here.
Commissioner Said?
Here.
Commissioner Tagioff?
Here.
5 in attendance.
Thank you. Okay. So before I go on to the rest of the part that I usually say, I want to try something out new first, and that is to go through the items of the agenda that are not part of the public hearing, starting with the approval of the January 13th, 2022 zoning committee minutes. Is there a motion for the approval of those minutes?
This is Commissioner Grill. I'll move the minutes.
Commissioner Grill has moved. Need a second, please?
Commissioner Hood, second.
Thank you, Commissioner Hood. Is there any discussion? I'm going to assume none. And Sam, will you take the vote for us, please?
Commissioner Grill,
Yes.
Commissioner Hood,
Yes.
Commissioner Tagia,
Yes.
Commissioner Said,
Yes.
and Chair Riley.
Yes.
5 in favor, 0 opposed.
Great. Thank you. Then just let folks know that there is a site plan review committee meeting on Tuesday, February 1st. That will be held virtually, and that information can be received via the DSI website or by contacting Principal Planner Tia Anderson. They have 2 items on their agenda to review site plans for. St. Paul Public Schools site plan for the Focus Beyond Playground at 340 Colburn Street, which has site improvements to that playground. And then Bennett's Stop and Rail House has applied for site plan review for a building addition and parking lot. Again, that meeting is Tuesday, February 1st. And so now we will move on to our business. And I'll continue with the notices about the public hearing. If you are a member of the public that would like to speak during a specific item's public hearing, you will be asked to identify yourself at the appropriate time. The public shall not utilize the chat for communicating public testimony, as it is not considered part of the public record. After I read the item number and title, staff will give an oral report on the item, and then I will open up the floor for committee members to ask questions of staff. After that, I will open the public hearing on the item. All testimony and questions will be addressed to the chair. You may speak in favor or in opposition, and you will be limited to no more than 2 minutes. People who exceed the time limit may have their microphones muted by staff. I will first ask for testimony from those in favor and then from those in opposition. You must provide your name and address for the public record. Please mute yourself during this meeting, except during your 2 minutes. Sorry. 2 minutes when you are specifically called upon to speak. You are allowed to speak only once, with the exception of the applicant, who will be allowed an opportunity to respond to the testimony and answer committee questions. I will now proceed to the first case, which is file number 22-018-236, which is the relocation of a non-conforming building located at 879 Fremont at the northeast corner with Mendota. And Bill Dermody is the staff with the presentation today. Go ahead, Bill.
Thank you, Chair Riley, committee members. Good afternoon. So this is a small convenience store that had a fire recently and is wishing to rebuild on almost the same footprint that it was, except just moved 3.5 feet north in order to make room for a wheelchair ramp, basically an ADA accessible entrance to the facility. Otherwise, mostly the same. I'll show the elevations in a bit, so you know what we're looking at here. So this is a vacant building. The use itself is not at issue. The use is legally non-conforming, but may continue as long as they restart the use within 1 year of the vacancy from the fire, which they do plan to do. The only issue is that the building is moving just 3.5 feet. If the building were not moving, they wouldn't be here either. So it is a relatively constrained set of issues that we're looking at here. The required findings for a relocation of non-conforming use are met in staff's opinion. And this includes that the appearance of the expansion or relocation will be compatible with the adjacent property and neighborhood. This building has been proven to be compatible with surrounding residential uses in the past, and the 3.5-foot movement doesn't change that fact. Also, rezoning the property would result in spot zoning. Rezoning to T2 traditional neighborhood or another district that allows this type of use would be spot zoning on this very small lot, less than 5,000 square feet. That is zone RT1 residential and completely surrounded by that same zoning district and single family and duplex homes. So on this size of lot, T2 would not be appropriate. The use is consistent with the comprehensive plan. The District 4 plan summary, which is an addendum to the comprehensive plan, says that new commercial development should meet design standards in zoning code chapter 63, and it will be going through site plan to review to ensure conformance with those standards. I'd like to, if I could, just share my screen for a wee bit. Okay. So on the right is the store as it was before the fire. You can see the small entrance right at the corner. You can also see those steps, how the finished floor elevation is just a little bit above the sidewalk, and somebody could not roll into this facility as it is. It's got the sign right at the corner. It's got a sign along the Mendota side as well. What's being proposed is really the same footprint and similar exterior, but there are some differences. So on the left side here, the lower left is an elevation as viewed from Fremont. The south elevation, you could see a ramp going up into the building. You can see a door that's more in the center than on the corner as it was before, and a series of windows. Of course, this is required by the zoning code. You must have 15% of the exterior facing the street being windows, and so that meets that requirement. We have heard a little bit from neighbors who are concerned about issues at the store, and from a police point of view, they always prefer having better views into the store, and opening this up with more windows will help that. So that's the view from Fremont. I also wanted to show, so the bottom of these is facing Mendota. You can see that there are a series of piano style windows if they were in residential. The higher windows, 6 of them along Fremont, and then one larger window close to the corner. And then you can see that the ramp, and then there's steps to access from the west, and then the ramp that allows you to roll up from the east to get into that door. The exterior will be painted concrete block, so that is different as opposed to the siding that is there today. But that painted block and the windows would appear to meet the zoning code requirements, and so nothing special is needed from you on that front today. We have not received a recommendation from the district council at this point. We have heard from a neighbor or two whose letters were passed on to you. But again, the staff recommendation is for approval of this application, and I'd be glad to take any questions that you have.
Thank you, Mr. Dermody. Are there any questions for staff from the committee members? This is Chair Riley. Okay, seeing no questions for staff, is the applicant here, and does the applicant have anything they care to add to the staff presentation?
The applicant is here. I can see Perry Bolin right there. I think he's trying to get his mute off.
Go ahead, Mr. Bolin, if you're able to speak. Right now we can't hear you, though. Sometimes on a phone, it helps to log back out and log back in again because we still can't hear you. You're unmuted, but we can't hear. I can't hear anything anyway.
Hey, Chair, maybe if he asks him to wave, if he can hear you.
Mr. Bolin, can you hear me? Yes. Okay, so you all can hear us. All right. Let's see. Thumbs up if you're okay not adding anything to the staff presentation. And maybe while if we hear from anybody, if you've got perfect. All right. If you've got any response, maybe you can figure that out while we're listening to any commentary. Thank you. So in this scenario, so now, is there anyone here to speak in favor of this application? Anyone here to speak in favor of the application? And I'll ask one last time, anyone here to speak in favor of the application? Okay. I'm going to move on to anyone here to speak in opposition to this application. Anyone to hear speak in opposition of this application? One last time, anyone here to speak in opposition? And I think we did receive one letter. We have two letters, right, Mr. Dermody? Both. One is asking for a way to address some trash issues, and the other was in opposition. Is that accurate, Bill?
I believe that's accurate. Yes.
Okay, great. Well, I don't see anyone here to speak during the public hearing, so I'm gonna check in with the applicant one more time, see if they want to say anything or can unmute for us. And if not, we can move on to discussion. A little concerned about any for the committee. Do any of you have any questions that you think can only be answered by the applicant? Commissioner Hood?
Thank you, Chair Riley. I don't have any additional questions. And if the applicant is comfortable and can indicate via waiving, I'd be happy to close the public hearing as soon as we are able to. Thank you.
Great. That works for me. All right. Would anybody from the committee like to make a motion or ask any additional questions, discuss? Maybe nice to have a motion before we discuss. Commissioner Grill, go ahead.
Yep, this is Commissioner Grill. I'd like to make a motion to move the staff recommendation for 879 Fremont with the one condition as added.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Grill. This is Chair Riley. We have a motion. Commissioner Grill has made a motion. Is there a second?
Commissioner Hood, second.
Thank you, Commissioner Hood. Is there any discussion from the committee members? No discussion. I have a friendly amendment if Commissioner Grill and Commissioner Hood would be amenable, and that we add a second condition requesting some sort of trash collection plan. This is something that has been added as a condition in the past on sites that involve lots of foot traffic. If that would be welcome. Otherwise, it's not that big of a deal to me. Commissioner Grill.
This is Commissioner Grill. This might be a question for staff. I'm just curious. I've seen the trash collection plans occasionally, but I know we've also had conversations about how that's a matter better handled like through DSI. And so I'm just wondering if there's any perspective on that from staff.
Great point, Commissioner Grill. Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Dermody.
Thank you, Chair. Commissioner Grill. That's a good question. Kind of wish we had staff from DSI who work with licensing here. We do not. But I would say from past conversations with them, this is, these businesses are not the only, this is not the only convenience store in the city of St. Paul. And so ideally, it would just follow the same rules and regulations that other convenience stores do. As far as enforcement of any litter collection plan goes, there is some difficulty sometimes to figure out where the litter came from. It's obviously more likely to be coming from a store like this than from the neighbor next door, but it could also be coming from vehicles going by and that sort of thing. I saw a thumbs up from the applicant. I'm sure they'd be willing to submit a reasonable plan. DSI would be wondering on their part, though, I'm sure, what should be in a plan like that. I might suggest giving a little more direction to DSI on that front, something along the lines of the applicant shall submit a litter collection plan to ensure that the exterior gets cleaned up daily, or something like that at least, so that it's not like on the one hand, their plan is to pick it up once a month, which would not be fair to the neighbors, or on the other hand, if somebody drops a tissue on the sidewalk, their permit is gone, which would be unduly harsh on the other hand. So I might suggest a little guidance along those lines.
Thank you, Mr. Dermody. Commissioner Grill.
Chair Riley, this is Commissioner Grill. I think unless, and you've sort of mentioned your openness, unless you feel really strongly about it, I think my preference would be to leave it out of here because, as Mr. Dermody stated, I don't want to put together a trash collection plan that is unduly burdensome, and then we run into some sort of issue with the permit itself. My preference would have that be handled at the DSI level. So I appreciate the sentiment in which the friendly amendment was added, and I appreciate you wanting to address the letter that was received. But I think unless we have, sort of long documented records of this being an issue, I don't remember seeing those in the packet. My preference would be to handled by DSI.
That works just fine for me. Thank you, Commissioner Hood.
I'd like to second Commissioner Grill's request to keep it simple.
Perfect. Thank you, Commissioner Hood. We will keep it simple and ask Sam to take the roll call.
Commissioner Hood,
Yes.
Commissioner Said,
Yes.
Commissioner Tegia,
Yes.
Commissioner Grill,
Yes.
and Chair Riley.
Yes. I think Commissioner Rangel Morales is here, but I don't know if he wants to vote.
I reviewed the materials before coming, and I would have voted yes.
Okay, I'll mark Commissioner Rangel Morales down as yes. 6 in favor, 0 opposed.
Great, thank you very much. And as a reminder to the applicant, this will come before the full planning commission 1 week from tomorrow. And that concludes our business for today. Unless anybody has anything, thank you very much for being here. Sorry about the technical difficulties. And unless there's anything else, we are adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Take
Thanks.
care. Have a great weekend.